Standing by is somebody that knows how this game and this system works. He is the managing partner of PCS Advisors. In fact, Paul Seegert's been on my show many times. He's not only a managing partner at PCS Advisors, which is a health consulting firm, 35 partner offices around the nation. He's somebody that knows the medical ins and outs better than anybody I know. Paul, how are you on this glorious Saturday?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm relatively healthy, and I'm here, and you're here, and that's good. How, we'll get into what Biogen had to do in a second. How certain should you as a patient be that the drug that your doctor is prescribing for you is specifically the right drug for you and not something that he or she is being paid to give to you? How certain should you be about that?
Well, you should be able to have total certainty that that's the case. Unfortunately, it may not always be. And there have been numerous studies that have shown that doctors do receive compensation from Big Pharma, as we call it. It's about $2 billion a year, actually. And that Big Pharma spends, if you take all the money that they pay these doctors for speaking engagements, for meals and other entertainment and travel, it's about $2 billion. And about 50% of physicians receive some of that.
How much? 50% of physicians receive, like, so half the doctors are on the take in this country?
Well, essentially, that's the truth of it. That's what the numbers are. And, I'm sure people would disagree that some of those that receive all that would say it doesn't influence their behavior. And that may be true for them individually. But, when you look at the big data, it always tells a story. And in this case, what I was reading another study here recently that showed doctors prescribe 58% more of a particular drug if they're receiving dollars from that pharmaceutical company.
So they might get, as you say, to prescribe that drug, a free trip here, maybe a cash remuneration, maybe a gift, it may be anything, so they can not only prescribe the drug, but maybe go out and make speeches about how great this drug is to fellow physicians or others in the medical community and tout the drug as being better than, say, a drug that maybe does the same thing, but is not necessarily a company or a drug that they're getting a kickback for. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay, so on a number of levels, that's disturbing. What should you do as a patient if you go to your doctor, somebody that you should trust emphatically, regardless of all of what we've been talking about? You've chosen this doctor. One would think you would go to the doctor of your choice, not somebody that was randomly assigned to you. You go to a doctor of your choice. How can you be sure that that doctor is not on the take? What can you do to protect yourself?
Well, the chances are 50-50. And, if you look at the big data, so I think you need to ask some questions as to other potential treatment options or other medication options. Now, that's not our nature. Usually we just pretty well trust whatever we're told by, our medical professionals. But I think the data is saying we should ask questions.
And the questions would be what? Let's say I go to my doctor and my doctor prescribes pill A for me. What do I say at that point? Do I say, are you on the take? Is that why I'm getting this pill? My guess is that could get you might get a very defensive answer in return. What should I do? How should I approach it?
Right. Yeah, I think you need to ask. It's probably more tactful to simply ask if there are other options and why this particular option is the best way to go, and get some explanation around that. And you may find that there are other options. And that might benefit you, too, from a cost standpoint, really.
Yeah, well, yes. And if the doctor, starts to mumble and speak in tongues or Latin or whatever they write in these days, you probably know you have a problem there. My guess is the internet would probably provide you with instances of what we're talking about. I mean, I've seen these stories done on some of these doctors with particular drugs, and they've gotten caught. So it's not hard to go in there and find a doctor that may be doing that. But the frightening thing that you've just said is that it's a 50-50 chance that the doctor is doing that because this pharmaceutical company took care of this person, and it may not be the best drug for you. Let's go to Biogen, for example. They had to settle $900 million, which to Biogen may be a drop in the bucket. But if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they were very big into drugs that tried to curtail the spread of Alzheimer's. And I guess the drugs were so bad or so ineffective that Medicare wouldn't pay for it. Maybe it was too expensive. I don't know. But Medicare pulled back payment for it, and I think it forced the Biogen CEO to resign back in May. What else is Biogen known for?
Yeah, that was the biggest thing in recent history. They do about $10 billion a year in sales, and they were expecting that particular drug would be a real winner for them. But as you pointed out, there really wasn't any evidence that it worked. It was a little bit shocking that it got approved by the FDA in light of that. And there was some, I think, some evidence of wrongdoing in that whole process. But it was going to cost the system about $100,000 per person that was prescribed that drug, even though there was no evidence that it actually did what it was supposed to do.
And I guess it was the whistleblower. There was a whistleblower that stepped forward, and it's amazing is that the lawsuit was filed in 2012, and it took 10 years for it to wind its way through the court system. That's pretty frightening in and of itself, is it not?
No, it certainly is. And when you think about the fact that there's $2 billion being in the pharmaceutical industry that's being spent to influence behavior, doctor behavior, Biogen, this really could have occurred with any of these companies that are out there that are doing this. And perhaps this is a warning to some of the others. Hopefully it'll influence their behavior in the right direction.
Paul Seegert's our guest, PCS Advisors. I'm not someone that thinks everyone should turn to the government for help when there's a problem. I think less government is better. But I think this is a screaming instance where the people that we elect and send to Washington ought to be able to address this. I mean, it's so. I mean, this is so egregious. If it is over 50% or at 50% of the doctors that are doing this, this is something that I think would be tailor-made for some sort of government intervention. But my guess would be that maybe some of the guys and women we send to Washington are on the take from these pharmaceutical companies. So, I mean, it's a lobby. Yeah, it's a circle of insanity is what it is. So I guess other than trying to be your own advocate, which every patient should be, there's very little that you and I can do about something like this.
Yeah, just spread the awareness like we're doing and encourage consumers to be good consumers. And we've got a system of delivering healthcare in this country that we've really trained Americans not to be good consumers, even though we're good consumers for the most part in all other areas of our lives. We don't give patients good information to consume with. Yeah. So hopefully this will help and people will ask more questions.
Let's hope. Paul, always great to hear from you. Stay well. I've always said this to you. We need to hear your voice. Paul Seegert, PCSadvisors.com. Thank you, sir.